Well, we can play around with this. Today on the Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, period, it's Kenny Garrett talking about the album Who Killed AI with a co-creator, Svoy. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, period. My name is Thomas-Gouker, and I will be your host today. Today's guest is Kenny Garrett. He's the legendary sax man, flute man, piano man, all around amazing resume. He has been a sideman to Miles Davis, to Donald Byrne, to Chick Corea, Roy Haynes, Freddie Hubbard, Marcus Miller, Woody Shaw, and he has recorded albums all the way back to 1985. You know, he's Kenny Garrett, you know. Kenny's latest album is called Who Killed AI, and it's basically a duet with a pop electronica musician named Svoy. So how does this work? Kenny laid down his parts at his house in New Jersey, and then he gave them to Svoy to electronify and dancify them. And the final results are extremely creative and enjoyable album called Who Killed AI. It was released on April 8th, 2024 on the Mac Avenue record label. The reviews have been stellar. Paris Move called the album indispensable. Jazz Views called it favorable. All Music Guide gave it a 4 out of 5, and UK Vibe gave it a 5 out of 5. So what is going on here? I can't wait to chat with Kenny Garrett. But first, let's sample a track from the album of Who Killed AI. It's Ascendance. Kenny Garrett, welcome to the Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show.
Well, thank you, Tom, for having me.
I'm loving this album, Who Killed AI. And one thing that I find that is really interesting is that I've been doing these interviews for a while. During the pandemic, you know, people had a lot of free time to work on their craft. And the first albums that they brought out were really dark. And I thought, oh, it's because we went through this really traumatic thing with, you know, or they had more time to, you know, overthink their production. And what came out was like a, you know, dystopian kind of view of what they were experiencing. I mean, people beside you, it's airborne. You could kill the person right beside you just by breathing or breathing in their air. It's very scary. But I think with Beyonce and other people who are doing this, it's like we need to lighten the spirits of our people. I don't think we've realized that that's where we need to go. And this album to me is exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need at the right. It's coming out at the right time.
Well, you know, Who Killed AI was a work in progress anyway. I've been myself and Svoy, who did a lot of the programming. I first met him really through he won the BMI contest. And so we started thinking about doing a collaboration. And that happens a lot of times with a lot of musicians. They'll talk about, well, you know, I hear you doing this kind of music. I would like to do this project with you. And sometimes it just doesn't come to fruition. In this particular case, it happened to work out because he was only 2 minutes away. And so what he would do, he would just bring his computer over. And in my living room, my studio, Garrett's studio, what I would basically do, he would pull up a mic, and I would hear, because it didn't have a melody, I would just hear the track. I would start recording the melody and improvise. And that's kind of the start of it. And then I would say, well, why don't you write a tune like this, like Miles, a tune that I did with Miles, you know, something like Miles. And so we would just go back and forth. And basically it was really easy. It was like probably the easiest recording I've done because it was in a comfortable situation. I didn't have to worry about being in the studio and it's a timing or you got to get the sound together. It's like it's a microphone. You're in your living room, you're comfortable, you're sitting on the couch. Okay, let me try something. And that's how that happened. But the title, Who Killed AI, came from a friend of mine, Skip Pruitt, another saxophonist. I let him hear a couple of the tracks. And he said, man, that sounds like Who Killed AI. I said, I like that title. I said, I like that. I'm going to take that. And then I started to expand on it a little bit. It was almost like, well, who killed AI? Who will AI kill? And who killed love? And so the word AI in Japanese, aisudu, means love. So AI. So you have all these different meanings for the record, but it's mainly basically when there's something that's new, we always have a little fear. So initially it's like, okay, people sell it, what's going to happen? And we don't know what's happening. Rules, laws change and things like that. I mean, I think, we would have to be careful, of course, with AI. I mean, we're moving pretty fast. Everybody's trying to figure out who's going to be the first to come up with the new ideas. So we're going to move pretty quickly, and we might make a couple of mistakes on there. But hopefully they'll create something on the positive side, which, for the health. And, people are trying to, to create, cure, cancer, cure dementia, cure something with AI. And it can, I'm sure it can be useful. But, like I said, it's a play on words. And that's how we came up with the title.
You're very optimistic about AI. I think a lot of people are dreading the future because it's, our government has no idea what it is, and they're doing hearings on it. And it seems like all the tech bros are totally down with it. And they're saying the benefit, but the downside may be that we may lose a lot of people's jobs. A lot of things will be automated. So It's very scary, especially when the middle class has been stripped away for the last 20, 30 years, to say, more of it will be. And by the way, keep on procreating. Like, let's have more people. Very confusing messages going on.
Well, anytime there's an advancement, you're going to lose something. That's how we used to write letters, and we had the computer. Then they said, well, no one knows how to write, no one know how to write letters now. Every time there's some advancement, there's going to always be fear because we don't know what's coming down the pipeline. So am I optimistic? Who killed AI? Who will AI kill? He's gonna mess up some people for sure. I hope it won't be the music. We can't say what it's going to be, but it's always some kind of new technology that comes in and it changes the way we thought about it. And as years pass, we realize, well, it wasn't as bad. I don't know if that's the case for AI because they're moving pretty quickly.
But I was like, okay, this AI thing's going to come down. I'm 58 years old. I'll be dead before it takes over the world. So I'm not going to put too much emphasis into it. I was like, we're at that stage where we're like, okay, let it do its thing. We'll just have to, stand back and see what happens.
Well, that's where we are. We all are there. But I think sometimes, like I said, when we create it and the possibilities of what it can do, you're really shocked that it is possible. So something can take over from what you've been doing. But it's always happened. Yeah, it's always been happening along the lines. I mean, I could think, when people were thinking about, I remember when disco came in, it's like, well, it took away from the musicians. They were doing machines. So it's always something that comes, but sometimes it finds its way back somehow. I'm not sure with AI what's going to happen. We're going to have to wait and see because we have to change the laws to kind of protect, the people also. So I can't really say what's going to happen, but I'm hoping I'm going to be more optimistic about it.
I love your optimism. I'm going to stay with it, at least for this interview, because I'm pretty scared, but I'm going to stay optimistic because it seems like you're optimistic. Now let's listen to the track Divergence, Ta-Da. Love that song. To this album, I'm like, okay, well, this is very entertaining. You remember back in the 20 years ago, these box sets called the Buddha Bar collection or the Ibiza box sets, where they were these like cool, chill, like jazz mix that were electronica. They were designed for dancing or just chilling out. They were very, very popular. And when I listened to this album, especially like the Divergence, the Ta-Da is like an amazing song that would fit in that. Actually, the whole album would fit in a Buddha Bar package or a Ibiza package, but that song right there, I could see like being isolated as a big hit. I mean, I don't know. Were you familiar with those collections at that time?
Well, some of it, I wasn't heavy into it, but I definitely, when something pops up, I always try to check it out. But I won't say I'm as adverse as you are in it for sure.
Oh my God, it was awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that all the tracks are connected together. It creates a whole soundscape, and it's also danceable. And when I read the press release, I felt like you were trying to explain to you were concerned that your audience would be like, oh my God, like this is too off the wall. But I mean, your audience has experienced millions of sounds, different kinds of sounds. I think they're open enough for it.
Yeah, I think for me is that, like I said, in the press is mainly there is a lot of sides to Kenny Garrett. I mean, I love music, and if they get a chance, I mean, if they know that I've done things with people like Guru or Jazz Mataz or Q-Tip, or if I've done something with the Judge's Symphony, if I've done stuff with Sting, they'll see that I've always been open. But sometimes when they only know that you do a certain kind of music, for example, the audience that we hear Who Killed AI, my core, and other people, they might come into this, but maybe they haven't heard Sounds from the Ancestors, or maybe they haven't heard African Exchange Student, maybe they haven't heard Songbook. Maybe they haven't heard Do Your Dance. There's a lot of, like Miles used to say, by the time they figure out what you're doing, you're into something different. And it's kind of like, people come in these different places, but they don't know your history because they come in with the music that brought them in. And they don't think that they should go back and look in your history. So a case in point, I used to talk to Brother Yusuf Latif all the time. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I didn't really know his history well. So I started going, every day we spoke for a year, and every day I would go and try to find something on him, and I would read and study. I was like, okay, well, he did Middle Eastern, he did world music, he did some funk stuff, he did everything. I just didn't know. He'd done stuff with orchestras, but you don't know every album or every CD the person has done. So it wasn't a concern for me. I'm good because that's where I'm supposed to be. Every time when I did Sounds from the Ancestors, I kind of felt that's where I needed to be. When I'm doing Who Killed AI, that's where I'm supposed to be at this time. It just lets people know that I'm still searching and still trying to grow as an artist and as a person. Because we know this, all the life lessons, they go on. They don't stop because you have one record. It keeps moving. And all I'm trying to do is keep learning and keep growing.
I'm going to veer off just a little. You're at a stage where, do you ever feel like you're going to document your experiences? Like either like a book form or like maybe a video log or even a podcast?
Every day I hear someone ask about that. When you're going to write a book, when you do a video, it's a friend of mine who went to school with me. He actually is trying to set this thing up. So it's kind of like, they're like saying, well, we want this to happen because it needs to happen.
It does.
I think for me, sometimes, when you're just, and you're on the journey, you're not really thinking about telling that story. You fall on a journey. And I guess sometimes we stop and we say, let's document this. But I think some of the documentation is really just from the CDs or some of the videos, But of course, to tell, start from the beginning and tell the whole story, I'm not sure that'd be great. But every day someone asks me, when you're going to write a book, or how come you don't tell that story? And I don't really tell the story until someone asks some question that opens up this door, and then we go on this journey. But if they don't ask the pertinent questions, then I don't really think about it because I'm just trying to go to the next place.
You need another pandemic where you're sitting at your house and you have nothing to do. Then you're like, okay, come on over. Like, ask me some questions. Like, that's what you need. You're too busy.
See, the pandemic for me was a blessing. I didn't really look at the pandemic. There was anything dark because I was trying to figure out how to get off of the treadmill. And so for me, the pandemic was very, very rewarding because I was able to be with my family, and my grandkids and my daughter and my wife. I was able to, so to me, it was perfect timing. For other people, it wasn't perfect because it was, they weren't where I was and what I was looking for, what I needed at that time. So I think the pandemic gave us an opportunity to learn some lessons. There were a lot of lessons to be learned there. I mean, people who couldn't sit by themselves, they had to learn to sit by themselves. The ones who were moving, they needed to slow down. That was a balance of life. We always had that. When we had Katrina, when we had tsunami, it's always a chance for the world to slow down and to take wind of that. But what happens is after it's over, they go back to normal. And so I always say, man, it's beautiful when we're at that place when we all come together. If it's for a couple of years, if it's for this, whatever, for the reason that we all come together, we're thinking the same thing. In the pandemic, everybody was like fearing what was happening. No one knew what was going on. So at that point, we're all vulnerable. We're all humble. And that's what the world needed to be, at that time. That's what we need. That was a lesson, I think, for us, and so to me, the pandemic was a bad thing, but of course, we learned a lot about ourselves.
Let's take a break from the action. I'm talking to Kenny Garrett, who just dropped his electronica jazz cool chill album called Who Killed AI. Hey, please be my warriors. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, listen, and I need warriors out there that can tough it out and fight these algorithms with me. Now, let's get back to the interview with Kenny Garrett. Let's sample a classic, My Funny Valentine. thank you very much for this album because I think it's very cool. What I'd like to see, to be honest with you, is like a trilogy where you can at least do 3 of these. When you were doing like check 1 2 1 2, you were doing the intro, like the verbal things. I'd like to see that kind of intermixed in some of the songs too, like as also like chop that up into like a part of a beat or in the background.
Well, how I look at it is that the timing of the record is great. How it was put together was great. Everything happened at a time. And I started thinking about that. So, well, do you do another record like this? I mean, it was so perfect. It's almost like I think of Lauryn Hill, Miseducation. That's a lot of pressure for. Yeah, it's a lot of. But I was just being, we were just having fun. I was just being silly. Okay, check 1 2 check. Okay, just checking. So you don't want to repeat that. You want to create something in another space, but with the same freedom. But the main thing now, we just have to get to touring.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to say something before you, because you had mentioned about Who Killed AI. I was going to say that what I like to do when I'm listening to Who Killed AI, and what I would like the audience to do is really just to listen from track 1 to track 7. It's kind of like a one piece, even though they're separate songs and all that. I find that because it's only 35 minutes worth of music, I find you're going to find a track that you like. But when I listen to it, usually when I'm walking, I just put it on and I just like where it takes me. And then sometimes there's some things I haven't heard. It's like, wow, I didn't hear that before. It's almost like it always points you to another place because even if you're just cleaning up, you will hear something that you didn't hear because maybe your focus wasn't on that. I don't listen the same way, like real deep. I mean, even though there's a lot of information on there, you just let the information come to you when it's supposed to come. That's what I like about Who Killed AI. I like to just take that journey on it. And I recommend to people, I said, well, just listen to it as a whole. And they're going to say, well, I like this track. I said, that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of tracks that I like. But I'm going to say, just take the journey. You just listen to it. If you're in the car, you're washing the dishes, you're doing what you're talking, if you're on a computer, it's just it can be background music, but there's something there that you got to get or something you're going to hear that you haven't heard. That kind of new experience. Like Miles used to, like I think when the new experience is about when you don't have any idea of that it was there before. You might have heard it, but maybe it didn't stick with you. And I think in life, that's kind of what happens too. That things are like, for example, say you're going down a road. I'm not sure where you're at now, and you're traveling, and there's a building that's on the right side that you've never seen before, but it's still there. But then when you need this building, sometimes you go in this building, and it's like, well, wow, I didn't know this building was here. It's kind of the same thing. There are a lot of things that are right in front of us, but we can't really see them at that time, or we don't need them at that time. To me, I kind of feel that when I'm listening to Who Killed AI. It's like, well, there's some things there. You just kind of have to let them pull you in. You already know before you put it out, so it's not a problem. I'm at peace with where I am, and I thought it was important for the music to be out for people to hear. Okay, check this out. This is a different way of looking at it. It's not. And I always kind of look at that's the optimism of it. Like I want people to hear it, and then you decide. Yeah, you decide if you like it or not. But like I said, it's been everybody. Been some great feedback on it. A lot of younger people are just coming into it, so it's a great thing. Like I said, it's a good place. I mean, everything kind of lined up together, so I'm happy about that.
Wonderful, and I am so happy to be able to speak with you. I was trying to get a hold of you from the last album. And I asked multiple times to speak with you because I love that last album. But I'm glad I got you on this album because I'm loving this album too. So it's great to get a hold of you.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Great. All right. I want you to have a great day. And
okay.
Get off soon.
Okay. Take care. Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The album is called Who Killed AI? Kenny Garrett and Svoy. Thank you for joining me today on the Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, period. Now, let's close out the show with the album closer, Convergence. The show is over. Have a great day. The Jazz, Blues, and R&B podcast and radio show, period, is a Spotify production.